Hello, and a big yo-ho to all our JoBros, JoHos, JoFos, and especially the JoNos. I am your Joseph's AJ. This is your JoNo, Mr. AJ. And we are back after a bit of a hiatus for us to watch episode 5, The Dark Knights. No relation. Honey, what was your first overall? Just give me your impressions of today's episode.
Um, right, it was a bit there was a bit more earnest emotion in it. It was
Yes.
it was the you still had your very colorful supernatural action sort of
Mm,
verging on 60s Batman.
yes.
That and with a bit of Royal Shakespeare Company.
I think that's a really great assessment, actually. Yeah, I would say so. I love this episode for a lot of reasons. Um, oh,
Sorry,
everyone at
carry on.
home. No, I'm laughing because a certain party has made an appearance. This was not premeditated, but actually, um, one of the things that I really enjoy about this episode is we get a new category of character joining us for the very first time, of which I would say that this is a representative, the Joe Smo, a little character. Could be a dog, could be a kid who's there to join the cast.
What,
Could be,
Poco? Whenever
that
I
was
hear
just
Poco, I always think of the Eagles B team.
That's really unkind. I always think that I have nothing to hide. But let's get started with our summary. So we open on an aerial shot of Windknight's lot, and we get a really good sense of the topography of this fictional English town. It's kind of a horseshoe bordered on the flat side by the sea, and then the whole U bit is surrounded by these towering cliffs. We can see that it's dominated by this big turreted castle, which looks very familiar to me. I was actually online looking through some paintings, trying to place like what medieval or Renaissance painting is this out of? And I think that it might be the Tower of Babel by Bruegel the Elder. I'm not sure, but we learn, thanks to our friend the narrator, that this castle used to be a knight's training facility, but now it's a prison where the prisoners are forced to work mining coal underneath the castle. Otherwise, this small village, the narrator informs us, is primarily supported by fishing and farming. So, Mr. Englishman, where in England could this be if we were to take this as a real place? Fishing, farming, coal mining.
Well, clearly it would have to be on the coast somewhere in Northumberland or Yorkshire if it's in England. I can't think of
Mm,
anywhere else on the coast in England. Obviously, there are in Wales, but there would be. But it's this isn't England, England. This
it's
is
Joe England. I
it's
know. Well,
George England. It's
I
like
just think it's really interesting because I thought you might say somewhere up north. And I don't know if I've mentioned it, but apparently consensus is that the Joestar mansion is outside Liverpool. I don't know why that's the consensus, but there must be some clues I'm not aware of. So it kind of makes sense that we are, oops, up in the north as I knock over my water bottle.
Lucky me!
Um, Now, this is really fascinating within the larger JoJo verse that we have this place that kind of looks a bit Italian Renaissance or maybe Flemish Renaissance. The geography of it doesn't really make sense for England. We haven't seen them yet, but there's going to be these huge basalt towers of rock, which look more like, I think, the Giant's Causeway to me in Ireland, Northern Ireland, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the Giant's Causeway is very impressive, but the towers they don't go up like that.
They
It's
don't
the
go
way
that
that the rock
high.
is cooled. It's like
Yeah.
somebody was trying to a giant was trying to build a causeway over to Scotland, like a bridge. It I mean, I was well into suspension of disbelief here. I was
Oh,
not.
yes. No. The only reason that I'm bringing this all up and sounding so picky is one of the biggest signatures of the entire rest of Iraqi's oeuvre is that he gets places exactly right to the point that there are chases across Rome. Spoiler alert, we'll go to Rome later, that you could use as a guidebook to find your way through Rome. It is pinpoint accurate. But at this point in his career, he didn't really have the money to go do research as a traveler. So he really was just kind of making things up out of his head. And in the ever quoted Manga in Theory and Practice, he finds it very frustrating to look back on early work where he wasn't able to get it just so. But I actually think it's all the better for it. I really like this imaginary England, and you do too. All right. So, all of that having been said, we've got um, our beloved Jonathan, Speedwagon, and Zeppeli are walking across these fields, and there's a little spat that goes on a lot longer in the manga, where Zeppeli and Speedwagon, I think, are having some big feelings about who's going to be the real JoBro. I think there's a little bit of jealousy, and it is interesting to see that with Speedwagon. Remember when Erina showed up? There was a lot of friction and jealousy at first until he realized, oh, she loves JoJo. And then it was like, okay, you're okay. But anyway, we're just having a little bit of bickering. And uh-oh, attacked by, in another episode, we had urban villagers. Now we get a rural urchin. Try saying that 5 times fast. Was this a confusing sequence for you, babe?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I wasn't quite sure. We got to that a bit suddenly, didn't we? Sort of like it wasn't the most of the traveling had happened in the previous episode, as I recall, and
Yeah.
there was then all of a sudden we're there, and what the hell's going on with who's this? What's he doing
Yeah.
here?
And not only what's he doing here, but what is he doing? He launches himself out of some kind of like a it's like a trebuchet kind of a makeshift thing. It's or a one of those noose traps, but in reverse that launches him like a
No,
catapult.
I figured that was some leftover from when it was the training facility for knights.
Yeah, I like that explanation. We're going with it because it is one of those things that the longer you look at it, the more you're like, what are the physics involved here? But he uses this thing to launch himself over their heads. As he does so, he swoops up their purse and he lands in the river, swim, 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 Poco out. And this is kind of fun because we get contrasting reactions. Speedwagon's like very practical. Hey, that guy's got all of our money. Jojo and Zeppeli are actually even more practical because they say, oh, wait, this could be our local guide. We can use this guy. And we get a segue into one of the most delightful moments for me in Phantom Blood as Zeppeli decides to give chase by,
By hopping over like Jesus.
yes, he walks on the water. I'm going to say something really controversial. The best characters in JoJo walk on water. Oh, that's going to make people angry, but I think I can stand by it. And how about our JoJo? How's he doing in terms of his Jesus levels?
He's a Jesus with wet feet.
He is a
Um,
Jesus with wet feet. He's having a little bit of trouble, but he does manage to walk on water, and he makes that list for me of the very best characters in the JoJo verse. Um, and so they,
yeah, I mean,
of course,
I mean, sorry to interrupt. You
no,
cast off with
please.
very, gold tinted outside the castle, and then when you get onto the zombie island inside the castle, it all goes horribly
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah, that's true. And there's one reason for that is the traditional color palette switch to let us know the emotions are changing. but also the sun is going down, as we discover. So JoJo and Zeppeli use their hamon to get sort of harmlessly punch Poco down from the cliff, and they
It's a
catch
bit of a
him.
dick move though, making him fall off a bloody cliff. I mean, couldn't they like
It's not nice, but he was a lot higher up than them. It would have been hard to chase him up there. And he did steal their bag, which isn't great. So you, even as we were watching, said, "Oh, another band name." And you knew that this was named after the American country band, which features Jim Messina, who is of Loggins and Messina, one of the power duo that's brought us Danny's song, after which Danny the dog was named after. I would say Iraqi has a real passion for Loggins and Messina. Hold that thought. And also, Poco is a very fitting name because usually there's sort of two reasons. It'll be like a band or a song, but also it fits. And in this case, Poco is very,
well,
well, he's a little boy, right? I don't know that they ever say how old he is, but most children in JoJo seem to be 10 for some reason. Even if they're really short and look really young, it'll be mentioned somewhere that they're 10 years old. I don't know why. Um, so this is as I was saying, this is our very first Joe Smo. To me, these are some of the most fascinating and well-developed characters in the JoJo verse. I'm not saying that Poco is going to be one of them. He's a prototype, but I'm not saying that he's not either. That's for you to judge. Um, and a lot of people just count them as JoBros. Some famous examples could be like Lucy Steele. I'd consider her a Joe Smo. Shigechi. Anyway, I won't bore you, my JoNo, with listing them. But so a lot of people just say that they're Joe Bros, but I say that they're not. I say that they are a thing slightly apart. And as we get to the end of Phantom Blood, we can talk more about why I think that. I don't want to get too deep into it. But here's the question I do have for you right now. Why introduce a child into this big, muscly He-Man world?
well, it gives the well, at the moment we're very short of empathetic characters. I mean, Speedwagon is sitting there doing his sort of standing in for the audience, the audience's eyes, but we don't,
Yeah.
they're all a bit, to coin a 21st century buzz phrase, they're all a bit toxic masculine, aren't they?
Oh, I don't think so. I would actually get up on a soapbox in what's the place where the mad people shout in London?
Hyde, what you mean,
Hyde Park.
like anywhere? No,
Well, yeah.
Hyde Park Corner.
Yeah, Hyde Park Corner. I would get up there and argue for 24 hours
Oh,
straight that
Parliament.
yes, I would filibuster my way through an entire session of Parliament that Jonathan in particular is not toxically masculine. But let's park that conversation. But I do think there are two things that you've sort of touched on in your answer. One is somebody for the audience to identify with, because after all, who is this for? Do you remember?
Oh, kids. Well, I suppose
Yeah,
kids.
it's a shonen manga, which means boys. So here's a boy for the boys to identify with. And then as well, everybody is so, I won't say that they're toxically masculine, but they are very overpowered. Even Speedwagon is an extremely capable fighter. There's really nobody in the show where you're like, oh no, this is a super vulnerable individual. I mean, there's Erina, but she's off stage. There's Danny, but he's dead. Interestingly, in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, always my sidebar, they ran into the same issue, which is why the character of Willow became increasingly prominent over the first couple seasons. They were like, we need somebody who can get kidnapped and be in danger. And then they started making her powerful, and they had to find somebody else to bring in. So now we've got everybody together. They realize Poco isn't a thief. He's all out of it. He's been hypnotized to force them to chase him to this place, which is, it is revealed. Do you remember? It's not just a farm field. He's chased
Oh
them
no,
away from farm
it's
field.
a cemetery full
It's
of.
a cemetery. Yes. Yes, it's a knight's cemetery. And the timing is such that now the sun is plummeting down. Like, man, that sun is booking it out of the way. um, and really, was this good planning? I guess they got held up by Jack the Ripper in the tunnel, so maybe it was unavoidable, but I feel like people should always be keeping an eye on the sky if you're out to fight a vampire.
From dusk till dawn.
That's just my particular personality quirk. So we realize that we're in a cemetery and we pull back and we see those amazing basalt columns. I don't know why I'm calling them basalt. It's not stated that they're basalt, but they look like basalt. I took geology because I didn't want to have to take physics. And we get this amazing dramatic pan up one of these columns to reveal your friend and mine, Dio Brando, silhouetted against this huge pinky purple supermoon. And the palette is hearkening back to the last time we saw him in episode 3, where he was against the background of this psychedelic burning pink mansion. Sorry. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you. It's like, what am I talking about in this note to myself? I was going to ask you, this pan up to something that is very tall and narrow, and then a reveal of a bad guy silhouetted against a big supermoon. Does that look familiar to you from an opening to another anime that we were watching recently? One where I would always poke you and go, hey, that's a JoJo reference.
Well, you do that when we watch anything, honey. You do that if we watch, sport. Um,
I mean, rugby is a JoJo
yeah,
reference.
precisely. Um,
But okay, it's not a tower in this case, it's a skyscraper. And there's a guy with very
oh yeah,
similar
Death
eyes
Note,
to Dio.
the
Yeah, it
most
is.
confusing show ever. It's like, what on earth? It's
I'm not
like
going to
you have to.
argue
They
with
should
you.
send everybody who watches that show an instruction booklet so
Hmm.
you can figure out what the heck is going on.
And
Anyway, that's
it
someone
could be a
else's
fun,
show.
it could
That's
be a,
that's someone else's show. Let's
yes,
stick to our show.
we'll stick to our show. But I just think it's important to point out how all pervasive JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is in any anime or manga that's been made since it, basically. You will find these huge hat tips to it. Um, okay, so we've got we've got Dio up on his column, and then all of these guys who look like rejects from the Black Cauldron Disney movie are coming up out of the ground. They're zombies, sort of in night attire. They're actually super cool looking. Oh, I forgot to say, Dio is dressed in a very English Renaissance era outfit with kind of a doublet. It's like he's cosplaying being a peer to all of these medieval Renaissance knights. And Zeppeli says, "Hey, baby, get down here and fight." And Dio says, "Nope, I'm a god. I don't get down there to your level. No way." And this is something to watch out for in future JoJo fights, not just with Dio. Who has the higher ground is so important and telling in a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fight. And this idea of who is going to approach first, which I think we've already seen in some fights in Phantom Blood, forcing your enemy to come to you rather than you going to them. Apparently, from the little bit of Googling I've done, that's considered really good martial arts strategy. The advantage is with the person who doesn't attack first, according to some schools of thought. So then we get a little something for the ladies. Dio lifts up his shirt and shows the last remaining scar. He's totally healed from the big fire, except for this one patch on his very impressive abdominals. And he says he's going to invite Zeppeli. You come up here and give me your blood to heal it. So this prompts Zeppeli to ask one of the best questions ever. How many lives did it take you to get this healed? How many lives have you taken? And do you remember Dio's iconic sassy gay best friend reply?
How many loaves of bread have you eaten?
It's great. Even a first time viewer, that's going to stay with you, isn't it? Because it's such a good answer. And it shows you what Dio considers himself now. He's the top of the food chain. We don't have to feel bad about eating bread. He doesn't have to feel bad about eating us. And this is I always like to cite TV tropes. I think that this could be considered a version of oh, that was the day I slaughtered your whole village. That was the worst day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday, which originated in the 1994 movie Street Fighter. Not a bad movie. Controversial opinion for me. Not only does this land for us, the audience, this how many loaves of bread, it really hits Zeppeli and JoJo where they live because we get this amazing three-way split screen where first we cut into Zeppeli's reaction in a sharp sort of horizontal triangle. And I was thinking it's like his rage has been sharpened to a point by Dio's remark. And then we get the other half of the screen comes in to take up with a close-up reaction of Jonathan's screaming face. And now, effectively, all we get is one of Dio's beautiful signature style eyes, and it is looking directly at the frame JoJo is in. So Zeppeli's rage is pointing at Dio, but all Dio can think about is JoJo. It's like a love triangle, some people could say. It's a hate triangle. So even though it kind of seems like this should be Dio versus JoJo, they're just totally focused on each other. Zeppeli doesn't feel that way. For him, this fight is about avenging his father with the stupid stone mask. So he gets up there and literally hops up the pillar to fight Dio. This is a really complicated, lengthy fight scene. It's really cool. I'm not going to try to break it down blow by blow. We would be here forever. But it comes to a head when Zeppeli tries to send his hamon up Dio's arm, and we learn that Dio has an exciting new power unlocked, which is he can freeze himself or other people by evaporating their moisture. So he freezes his arm to stop the hamon progressing, and then he sends that freezing cold up Zeppeli's arm to wound him. And I'm always talking about the tantric polarities of this show, but we've got a new set. Instead of black and white, good and bad, we've got hot and cold. So that's kind of fun. And what do you think about this new weird power? Did it seem like it came out of left field for you, or were you just like, I'm willing to roll with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was a good MacGuffin that they had to overcome at that point because it just
Yes.
meant that, oh, this new superpower, it ain't gonna be that easy. We need something else
Yes.
that
Yes,
is
exactly.
that is more different to make things a bit more
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. You are so right. From the mechanics of the plot, Zeppeli is so unbelievably powerful. And then Jonathan is also pretty freaking powerful. It There would be no way that Dio wouldn't die here and now if we didn't give him something new. And I feel like cold is actually a really good choice because, I'm not a Twilight person, but I did read the first book and I know that that's a big thing. Vampires are cold. It comes up in other ones, but for whatever reason, I associate it most with Twilight. So yeah, so it works. It's good. And once again, uh, going back. Zeppeli is disarmed, and JoJo has to get involved to help, which of course he will, because he's the ultimate good boy. He is not going to leave his bro hanging. So he interposes his hand in between Dio and Zeppeli's hand to like break the flow of the ice wave, however you want to call it, freezing his own hand and sacrificing himself a bit in the process. And once again, this is the once again, we see Dio underestimate JoJo and just show that he doesn't get it because he says, I didn't think you had it in you. Oh, really? Did you not? Did you really think that he wasn't going to? I mean, you've seen how this guy fights, how he fought for his dog, how he fought for his girlfriend, how he fought for his father. Did you really think he wasn't going to come help his friend? It's so weird. It's like this, is Dio a narcissist or a psychopath or both? It's hard to say, but
of course he is. He's a zombie. He's a vampire at this point.
I mean, I would say he was even before he was those things, but there's like a limited empathy that is a real Achilles heel. He can't strategize as well as someone as intelligent as he ought to be able to. Speaking of like limiting, this is the way of making sure that he's not so powerful that the fight instantly ends. He's not smart enough to realize, oh, JoJo would help in any situation. Anyway, even as a team, our Ham-On boys are not strong enough, and they get flung down back to the graveyard, where Jonathan's hand is now frozen, and Zeppeli's much worse frozen arm is rapidly becoming gangrenous. And Dio not coming down. He does not come down for anybody. He does not get out of bed for less than 10,000 blood of a virgins. So he summons some new minions. And we've got Bruford, which is localized as Blueford in the English translation, and Tarukas. Do either of these names ring any bells for you? They're
None
kind
whatsoever.
of deeper cuts. Okay. So Bruford is named after Bill Bruford, who was the drummer for Genesis, Yes, and King Crimson. He is Princess Pretty Hair, if you're wondering which of the two I'm talking about. He's got this long, gorgeous hair and kind of like a diadem. He actually looks a lot like another later JoJo character. It was almost like Araki fell in love with this character and wanted to have him back again in another season. Not important right now. Tarukas is from an Emerson, Lake and Palmer album title, and it's also the title of a song on said album. It is an allegory on the futility of war, kind of makes sense here, and tells the story of a monster that's part tank and part armadillo. I looked it up. It's interesting looking. And Tarukas is armored, kind of like an armadillo, and he is a big giant. He's like the size of a tank. Speedwagon actually goes ahead and points out that his sword alone is bigger than Jonathan's whole body, which we know is 6'5". That's a big sword. And he's so big that he can lift up the entire piece of land that Jonathan is standing on with no effort. Anime in general loves to play with size difference. And it's one of those things where sometimes I think it's just meant to be symbolic, and we're not meant to think that that character is actually that ridiculously huge. And other times it's diegetic to the scene and like, yes, literally this character is this big. In this case, because of Speedwagon's little narration, like, oh my goodness, we know that he is literally that big. What do you think? Do you think that this is meant to be a supernatural thing in this case?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think he was that big in life.
No.
It is interesting though. It's one of the fun things about animation.
I thought they'd been grown by being
underground. Yeah. Because Bruford is not that big. He just looks like a buff, handsome gym bro with Princess Pretty Hair. So both of these knights are now focused on attacking Jonathan, and Zeppeli can't help because his arm is so badly frozen. And then we get what could be the lead-in to 1,000 fan fictions.
Relax. You'll warm up soon. faster if you took your clothes off.
Speedwagon is going to nobly make a suggestion about how we can help. He lifts up his shirt and puts the frozen hand against his skin to warm it with the heat of his body. As Speedwagon says, it is also something that real life people do in the Arctic when there's frostbite. You gut a caribou and put the frostbitten bit of you in there. But also, what did you think of, Hun?
The Empire Strikes Back.
We didn't talk about it beforehand, but I knew that was going to be what you thought of because it's what I thought of. It is fun, and I was a little disappointed that Speedwagon didn't like cut himself to get the blood
I thought he
running.
had. I kind of got lost
he?
in the moment then. I thought
I
that's
mean,
what
maybe
what
he
it was.
did. Yeah,
I
I'm
thought
not sure
that's what was
either.
I thought that was what was happening. I was like, ew.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of but it's also kind of awe because in this moment, our two they're JoBros to JoJo, but up to now they've been Joe foes to each other. Now they are united in JoBro love, which is the best kind of love, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And Zeppeli says, "Look, I thought that you were a coward who was going to cut and run, but actually, I see now that you are in it to win it, my brother." And it's very sweet to me, at least. I like it. I like it when people like each other. And I like it even more if they previously didn't like each other and then they start to like each other. I am in favor. So while all that's happening, we get the narrator cutting in to give us the backstory of our two knights. They were both men who had lost their families and were without a purpose to center them. Can you think of any other two men who've lost their families and are without a purpose to center them?
Dio and Jojo, obviously.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. They're parallels to Dio and Jojo, I would argue. And they both wanted something bigger to give their life a purpose. What better purpose than a lady? And not a romance kind of a lady, because we're more noble than that. This is more of a courtly love than love. They vow their allegiance to beautiful, young Mary Queen of Scots against cunning Queen Elizabeth, who is out to get her as they grapple for the crown. And in this version of Joe Jenglish history, Queen Elizabeth framed Mary for murdering her husband, Lord Darnley, and imprisoned her, turning her own people against her. Now, sweetie, I know you know so much about this. Tell me as much or as little as you want to correct the record of Mary, Queen of Scots.
Oh, it's not fair. I had a tutor. I had a Scottish tutor at university who I wrote an essay trying to flatter her, saying Mary Queen of Scots was ace, but she hated Mary Queen of Scots. She wrote a book, in fact, called Mary Queen of Scots. Mary Stuart, that was her name, her real name. A Study in Failure. The thing about Mary Queen of Scots is that she grew up in France. And so, despite what you might see on movies, she had a very strong French accent, and she was not very good at her job of being Queen of Scots. And what she ultimately did was she had to run away to England, and she was, because Queen Elizabeth the First had no children. There was a big problem with the succession to the crown, and Mary was a Catholic, and Elizabeth really didn't want to have her around because she was a center of possible rebellion from the Catholics, and also, the obvious heir to her. In fact, Mary Queen of Scots' son actually did succeed Elizabeth I. He became James I of England, having been James VII of Scotland. So yeah, the Stuarts won in the end. But she was so silly, she didn't really steer clear of anti-Elizabeth plotting while she was in England, the guest of Elizabeth, having sort of run away from Scotland because she wasn't very good at her job
and thrown herself on the mercy of Elizabeth, really? Please protect me from my own people. They're so mad at me.
And she sort of didn't she there's some controversy over to the extent that she was certainly involved in a plot. She was involved in correspondence regarding a plot to overthrow Elizabeth and put her on the throne, which was a catastrophically bad idea because it meant that Elizabeth, by the standards of the time, I'm by the standards of the time, I'm going to get a lot of hate mail from Scottish people here, is that she didn't have a lot of choice. And I hasten to add that her son ended up becoming
Being
the King of England.
yes.
But if she was executed at the same place as these knights, we've actually located the place, the whole scene here, because she was executed at a castle called Fotheringay, which is in Northamptonshire, which is nowhere near the sea, has no coal mines for as far as I'm aware, and was not a training
Ground
facility
for knights.
for knights. I mean, yeah, it's very difficult to say to buy into the romantic vision of Mary Queen of Scots. Interesting fact, though, she introduced, well, the legend is she introduced golf to Scotland, and her little soldiers, her cadets that she brought with her to carry her golf bags, were called, is where we get the phrase caddy.
All right. So within our story, Bruford and Charukis have vowed their allegiance to Mary against Elizabeth, and they are doing such a great job of fighting on her behalf that Elizabeth offers them a deal. She's going to spare Mary's life if they will allow themselves to be executed and stop the fighting. And they are such devoted followers that they say, yes. And as they are dying, the executioner, about to cut off their head, says, hey guys, you got swindled. She's already dead. And he points, and we see her head on the ground, and they die filled with incandescent rage and hate and betrayal. I would. Why would the executioner?
It's a real dick
do
move.
this?
If that's the way it happens.
It's a serious dick move. I don't understand, because also this is a very Japanese inflected England, and he should know that if you kill somebody by betraying them profoundly and they die in that state of rage and hurt, that is how you get a kind of ghost called an onryo. It is the kind of ghost that you see in movies like The Grudge or The Ring. It's a ghost that it's not just unfinished business, it is a vendetta to pursue. Not a good kind of ghost to create. It's also very psychologically astute. I feel like it reflects the idea that hurt people, which I have found to be fairly true in my life. So all of this to say, these knights went to their death loyal to Mary. And before I go back to present day JoJo verse, do you remember the name of Jonathan Joestar's mother?
Elizabeth? No, I can't remember.
It's Mary Joestar.
Oh.
So I feel like there's something here.
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name. It's his mother's name.
If you'll remember, I've mentioned, not as at length as I should have, Dio is the one person that Dio has ever shown that he cares about when he was alive was his own mother. His big part of his grudge against his father was the fact that Dio's father carried on so badly that he drove Mrs. Brando to an early death. And with Jonathan, the lack of Mary has sort of tinged his whole life with a kind of melancholy, even though he started out in such a great position. And she's always there. I don't think I pointed it out in the last episode, but episode before last, even as the mansion is burning down, they spend a long lingering shot of Mary's portrait burning up. There's a lot of fan theories, this is just a tiny sidebar, that if Mary Joestar had been alive when Dio came to the house, he could have been saved. Like maybe he needed a good mom to turn him around. I'm not going to say that. I'm not sure that Dio is savable, but I like the idea that People just need a good mom. Heartwarming to me. I'm not a mom, but I appreciate moms. Now we are back in the present tense in the graveyard, and Bruford attacks Jojo with his hair. He can suck blood through his hair. It's very cool. Jojo summons his Hamon and eventually manages to repel Bruford's attack using, I think it's Scarlet Overdrive. There's lots of overdrives. And Bruford is so impressed by this, isn't he? It's an unusual reaction. Do you remember what he says? After Jojo hasn't beaten him, he's just managed to fend him off.
No, he was impressed, wasn't he? Yeah, I can't remember the exact words though. I should have taken a note. What
Oh,
were the words he said?
I don't know what. Well, actually, I will say the words. I was about to say it doesn't matter. It does matter a tiny bit. He says, finally found a worthy opponent on whom to practice the art of war. Now, so very exciting. He asks Dio, can I fight this one just one-on-one instead of me and the big armored tank guy destroying him right here and now, which we easily could. Let me fight him one-on-one because I feel like this guy, he's a little something special, and I want to honor him by killing him by myself. And what does Dio say?
I can't remember. Sorry, I need to take better notes.
No, you don't need to. It's okay. He says yes.
Oh,
that's all I'm looking for.
I was expecting that. I thought that I'd missed. I knew he'd agreed, but I thought I'd missed some zinger that
I understand why you feel that way.
Imprinted on my mind. It was just obviously.
I'm sorry. I wasn't looking for a zinger. I was just like, why would you say yes? That's my question. Like, Dio, honey, I want to help you, but you need to help me to help you. He's just making such bad choices. He's so, do you remember? You won't remember because it was a long time since we did that recording, but in our recording of episode 3, I was talking about fate versus free will and the fact that Wang Chun, the Asian apothecary, noticed that Dio is sort of like blessed by the heavens. He's a lucky man because he has 3 moles on his ear, and that means he's Fortune's favorite. And Dio really behaves as though he is Fortune's favorite. He takes stupid chances. He doesn't dot his I's. He doesn't cross his T's. He says, sure, Bruford, please fight my superpowered brother one-on-one. I'm out. And he fades away, not just figuratively, but did you notice?
Yeah, no, it was a bit odd, wasn't it? It's like,
yeah.
It was like a wrestling match, sort of tag team, sort of like.
It was. And part of this you can put down to the fact that this is like Araki's first big break. He hasn't got everything smooth. Things are going to be clunky. But I also do think that there is a psychological element at play that we can have some respect for, that Dio is just overconfident. But the part that doesn't make sense to me is, wouldn't he want to watch Jojo die? He has been wanting to ruin Jojo's life for such a long time, and then eventually wanting to take Jojo's life for quite some time. Wouldn't you want to watch it happen? Maybe that says something bad about me, that I feel like I understand how his mind would work in this situation, but I don't get it. It frustrates me, and I just go, this isn't good storytelling. Anyway, so now Charukas agrees and he backs off, but what he is going to do is make sure that Speedwagon and Zeppeli don't help Jonathan. That's his brief. And Bruford is like, okay, now it's time to attack, but he attacks in a very unusual way. He puts both his hands behind his back. And do you remember what he does to attack?
Oh, he is this where they did the thing with the hair?
Yes, he has prehensile hair. Not only can he suck your blood with it, he can actually wield a sword with it in an attack that he calls the Danse Macabre. And this is where English major went and looked at the lyrics of Tarkus, the actual album Tarkus, not the character Tarukas. The title song, it describes an execution, and it says, the preacher said a prayer, save every single hair on his head. He's dead. And I think that that's kind of a summary of that execution scene that we saw, and then the prehensile hair being foreshadowed. A lot of times there's like little lyrical things that come into play that make this fun to delve and dig around in. So he attacks him with his sword hair and knocks Jonathan into the ocean. And it's like, haha, well, that's the end of him, because what do you need to use Hammond?
You need to be able to breathe.
Yes. I mean, you need to be able to
the
breathe
ocean,
generally.
or is it a lake? I thought it was a lake.
I think it's the ocean. I could be wrong. I thought that there were.
I thought it was. It didn't look like there were very many waves and things. And
yeah, that's a good question. Maybe it's a lake. You know what? I'll go back and look. And if
well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, I'm just curious. We can settle this in post. Anyway, he's underwater, and our friend Bruford, I will just say, I really like this character. He's a very interesting character to me. You know, he's not super complex. He's got cool powers, but they're not like mind-blowingly cool. But what I like about him, he's extremely honorable. First, he wants to fight JoJo one-on-one. And then when Jonathan falls into the water, he jumps in after him. And he reminds JoJo, you're kind of at an advantage and a disadvantage. He actually says this to him. You're at a disadvantage because you can't breathe, but I'm at a disadvantage because all of this armor is weighing me down. I don't need to breathe, but I can't move that easily. So if you want to take your best shot, go ahead. And then we get a flashback that I enjoy so much, predictably. Jonathan is like, what do I do? And he remembers. Do you remember what he remembers?
Well, it was the thing about, playing tug with the dog.
He's remembering his father telling him, Danny has stolen your toy and he won't give it back to you. And Jonathan's like, I'm going to get it back. And he says, if you just let it go, he'll stop tugging. Because he thinks this is a game, this is fun for him. So if you stop resisting, he'll stop pulling. And this is some of the best dog training advice I've ever seen in a cartoon. Seriously, this is the way that if your dog has something, unless it's something poison, if it's poison, just do what you have to do. But if it's like a shoe or something that you want back, just drop it and he'll drop it, because now the game is over. So it's also a very Buddhist moment, actually, or possibly Taoist as well. This idea that instead of resisting what is, you go with what is. Like, instead of fighting to the surface or doing what the enemy expects you to do, you go down. And now things get really crazy, because what does he do down there?
Well, he tries to find oxygen.
Do you remember why there would be pockets of oxygen?
Well, because of the mining underneath. This is underneath the lake, which anyway,
Yes.
I'm not going to delve into that too deeply.
No, that I'm sure that is a thing that happens, that near mines with water, there probably are pockets of oxygen, because that's the kind of thing that Iraqi would scrupulously research. How Jonathan would find that, I don't know, because he's not psychic that we know of, but the plot demands, and so he finds a pocket of oxygen, and now he's all powered up, and he is ready to deliver, because the water conducts Hamon really well. This is something that comes up throughout JoJo. Some things conduct Hamon better than other things. Water is a great conductor, and he's delivering a turquoise blue overdrive to Bruford, and then to be continued. So that's the end of the episode. It's a really pacey episode. It's
Lots of character development, though,
lots
compared
of
to
say more.
not the sort of bad guy of the episode, but had a lot of, given an entire backstory.
Mm.
However
Are you,
much pedantic people might want to pick it apart.
but you didn't want to. You were invited to. You're very good about just rolling with it. I was going to say, I've already expressed that I find this character extremely likable. Are
Which
you
one?
curious? Oh, sorry, Bruford, the Princess Pretty Hair, who is honorable
I don't know. I
about
haven't
how
really
he
got
fights.
to know him yet. Ask me next time.
So you're still getting to know Bruford. We're also getting to know a little bit more about Speedwagon and Zeppeli. We're seeing a little bit more of Speedwagon as a real team player. And Zeppeli is kind of a sassy, cheeky dude who says to Dio, "Hey, baby," instead of addressing him as "you rogue," like Jonathan would do. They're developing more distinct flavors. I feel like everybody's developing more distinct flavors, except possibly one character. What do you think? Who would that be?
JoJo's not really.
Yeah, yeah, he's not. JoJo's just a sweet, good boy who's doing his best, but I love him anyway. And my very quick little wrap-up questions, there aren't a lot. Number one, how do you feel about the manly bonding? Is it fun to watch?
What manly bonding?
Well, Zeppeli and Speedwagon.
Oh, yeah, I suppose they're getting back together, aren't they? Yeah,
Not that excited.
It's not quite the loving that not quite, not yet. Maybe we'll give it time. Give it time. It's the early days.
All right, fair enough. Number two, because a lot of people have this response, and I don't think you will, but I feel like I have to ask it. Are you annoyed that Poco is now tagging along?
Well, he hasn't done a lot yet, has he?
No,
Tag along.
but it's just
No,
like
I'm not
the
annoyed.
presence of a kid. You don't feel like
No,
that brings down
no,
the vibe.
not yet. Not yet. Maybe he will be. Maybe you're foreshadowing annoyance, but not yet.
So yeah, but I will say I don't find him annoying. So that's not my perception bleeding through. And I think I already know the answer to this, but are you warming up at all to Jonathan? Because you do find him pretty boring, don't you?
Well, he hasn't done very much except get into an extraordinarily long stylized fight in this one.
That's
So
fair. I mean,
we need some more. There was a lot of character development in this episode, but not of him. Need
not
more.
of him.
Need
more
more
of him.
coming up.
That's fair. Okay. So finally, my last question. What do you think happens next? We've got them under the water. Jonathan finally got a breath. He's able to deliver a blow.
I think that they all have a cup of tea and sort it out.
Wow, this is English.
Come inside and have a nice cup of tea.
But don't forget, Bruford is Scottish.
Well, they drink tea in Scotland.
Living like this, it's a full-time business.
I don't know. I feel like maybe a whiskey would be better for him.
No,
we'll wait and see.
I don't know.
All right. Well, on that note, everybody, I don't remember how I end the show. No, wait. Okay, so now it's time to use the secret technique. So ham on, JoBros, and we'll see you next week.